All righty, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today, we have a guest. He's back. Jose is back. He's live from Hawaii, joining us for an episode today to talk about a couple things. A couple things happened in the with our friends down south in Austin, Texas. We've got some recruiting updates, some interesting things to talk about. Definitely some passionate things to be discussed about Arch Manning and his decisions.
Hey, before we start talking about all that stuff, how's Hawaii? Like, what a horrible host you are, bro. You just said we have a guest, and then you start talking about 50 million things. How's Hawaii?
Not too bad, boys. Sun's out most of the time, 99% of the time, and it's sprinkled every now and again to cool us down. So I'm having a blast. I was telling you guys earlier, right before we started, it's the hardest I've worked in a long time. So really exhausting days out here.
What are y'all doing later tonight?
Today it's been pretty chill. Tomorrow we're gonna drive the entire island. The lady at the front desk told us it's about an hour and a half, so we're just gonna take stops throughout the little towns. See what we got a rum tour in the morning as well, so we might get a little loose before we hit the road.
Love it. It's awesome,
yeah.
man.
I was gonna say it sounds like a rough time, but you know what? At the end of the day, you were missing us, so you had to hop on. You're ready to be back on full time, aren't you?
It's hard to not want to be part of this podcast. I was telling you guys yesterday, reading Phil Knight's book. That guy was a grinder when he was trying to start up Nike. I've learned a lot of fun facts, so it's been motivating me to want to be on this podcast during this vacation I'm taking on.
We are glad to have you. I feel like the show it's better when we are whole, obviously. So it's good to have you back, even if it's just for a one episode base or a half an episode basis. But either way, it's good to be whole again, boys.
Yeah.
And let's get to talking about our friends down there in Tejas, like Brum alluded to. I know he's got a couple things to hit on, but whenever you guys are ready, I'm ready.
Yeah. So no, that's good. So before we get into it, we just want to say we appreciate it. We're past that 4,300 subscriber mark. We're knocking on the door of 4,400. So if you've been here, this is your first time, second time, millionth time, just hit the subscribe button, help us out. Turn the notification bell so you can stay alert and stay up to date to everything that we post. Find us on our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, and Spotify. If you are listening to us right now on Apple or Spotify, or both, depending on what you like to do, leave us a review, an honest review. It helps. It grows the channel on those two platforms, and it helps get more people to listen to what we have to say and all the ridiculous things we talk about. So if you haven't done all that, help us out and be sure to spread the word. All right. So hot topic. All right. Arch Manning, he pulls the trigger. He commits to the University of Texas, nephew of Peyton and Eli Manning. The name speaks for itself. Number one quarterback, number one overall player in the 2023 class, 5-star, 1.0000, according to 247. Can't get much better according to their analysis. Might be slightly biased. While he is good, maybe the last name's helping him get to that 1.0 rating. He had offers from basically he could walk into any university across the country, and he said, I want to play football here. They would open the door for him. But really, it seemed to come down to Texas, Georgia, Alabama seemed to want to do his own thing, not follow his uncles. He wanted to do his own legacy. Jose, since you are just tuning in and joining us from paradise, I say let's get your opinion first.
I mean, it's unfortunate, it's never good to see those guys get something good happening for them. But I mean, whenever Stark got hired, that's one thing that I wasn't going to deny. He might not be a great head coach, but he's probably a pretty good recruiter. And with Texas backing him now in NIL, it was just a matter of time before they had a huge kid commit to them. And I mean, I don't understand all the hate that Arch Manning is getting for being a 5-star quarterback. I'm sure his name is helping a little bit, but I mean, it's not football, but Bronny James, he's not the number one overall player in his class, and his dad is literally in the NBA right now. So Arch is talented, and I think if he was going to commit to Oklahoma, we'd all be absolutely ecstatic right now and saying that he's the next coming of Jesus Christ, probably. So I think it just some of the fan base is a little frustrated that the commitments are coming to Oklahoma. And I mean, and I think it's fair, but Arch Manning is definitely going to help them. I don't think Texas is back by any means. They still suck. They still haven't won anything significant in recent history. So the only thing that's good for them right now is there's definitely going to be a flood of offensive commitments. Probably, I would say like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 guys would commit just because Arch Manning is going. And it seems like that isn't far-fetched to say. They got a lot of crystal balls after Arch made his announcement this morning. So, I mean, we'll see if Sark can do, what he did at Alabama, but so far it hasn't been true at Texas. It's going to be a long road ahead of him. And, Quinn Ewers, that guy's going to get the Spencer Rattler treatment by Texas if he doesn't perform next year and the year after when Arch is on campus.
I agree with what Jose said. We were texting about a little bit earlier. I think the biggest thing that I hate the most about this is the fact that Arch Manning will bring it's inevitable. He will bring some surefire, really, really good offensive talent to Texas with him because he is Arch Manning and kids are going to want to be there and want to play there. But at the same time, Quinn Ewers is going to be gone soon. I don't think there's any way that he finishes his career at Texas. I think he's going to hit the portal at some point soon, probably as soon as Arch Manning arrives on campus. Now, back to the Oklahoma perspective of this is, as soon as Arch Manning committed, I started watching Jackson Arnold tape, and Brum, you and I started talking about it a little bit before Jose hopped on, and you agreed with me, Brum. So I'm curious to see Jose's take. And granted, I'm not here to say that Arch Manning's not really, really good, or that we wouldn't be freaking out if he committed to Oklahoma, because we absolutely would. But Jackson Arnold is just as capable in every aspect of the game as Arch Manning. Anything Arch can do, Jackson Arnold can do. You talk about Arch's mobility, Jackson Arnold has that same thing. The deep arm, Jackson Arnold has that. There's nothing on a field that Jackson Arnold can't do that Arch can do. And if anything, I feel like Jackson Arnold played a little bit tougher competition playing in that 6A Texas high school versus Louisiana. And that's just, and again, that's no slight at Arch. I just feel like Texas high school football is probably the elite of the elite. And Arch Manning played, or not Arch Manning, Jackson Arnold played at the highest level. So I feel like as a Sooner fan, it sucks because of the talent that Arch is going to bring with him inevitably. But I have just as much confidence in Jackson Arnold long-term as I do Arch.
Yeah, physically I think they're pretty similar. I think you probably both feel the same way. Like they're just equally as talented. I think what's going to separate both of them is going to be the coaches that are going to be developing them. So it's really going to be a Lebby versus Sark battle, and who's better between the years. Like that, at the end of the day, that's what separates a good quarterback from a great quarterback. And that's at any level, right? At the pro level, like you can probably like there's a reason all those guys are in the NFL. They're really freaking good. But you don't get Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady every day because no one can process information on the football field as quickly as they can, or Peyton Manning. Like if Arch is anywhere near as good as his uncle Peyton, then it's going to be tough to outperform him. But he's still 18 years old. He's got a lot to learn. Being part of that family doesn't hurt because both of his uncles can pretty much be like, hey, bud, this is exactly what they're doing. And yeah, football has evolved a lot since they were both in the NFL, even in high school or college. So there's definitely probably some intricacies they might not understand as well as the coaching will. But if Jackson Arnold, and again, if Lebby can really teach him and develop him, I don't think it's really going to be a big concern. It's really going to be, again, and we've hit it a lot on the show, like if this offense can look good next season, and then even more if they can look good once Jackson Arnold is at the helm, Oklahoma's offense will be fine. But right now, there's definitely, I think it's fair for fans to criticize, like, what the hell's happening? Why are we not doing better in the recruiting? And like, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying, like, it's just June, it's not a big deal. Well, like, it's June. Like, in recruiting, that's kind of a long time. These kids are committing because they're pretty much ready to go, especially with the guys that are going to be early enrollees, right? Like you kind of have to start hot to end hot at this rate. Like we can't rely on, at the last second flips like we did last go around, because Venables, understandably Venables was just hired in December, and he needed to flip as many kids as possible and reassure some that weren't too sure of being Sooners. Now he's had he's had this year, right? And granted, it might not be a long time, but it's time in general, and he can definitely do better. I think I think we talked about it when we were on Mark Rogers' show sometime back. I personally don't believe Oklahoma's going to have a top 10, 5 class, but we can definitely get a top 10 class. It just needs to start rolling. Like, all these crystal balls need to come into fruition. We can't just hope anymore. Like, Caden Green, come on, commit. I know you guys are going to talk about him.
Phil Picotti. Yeah, there's a bunch.
Phil Picotti, like Jaquazi Petaway, I think that's how you say his name. And I think you guys are going to talk about him today. Like, come on. These guys, the coaches need to push for their commitments. Like, it's no more. I understand you want to make kind of ensure that they're not going to walk away at some point between now and the moment they sign their letter, but it's kind of a risk you have to take. And that's a risk every coach takes. And kind of push for that commitment right now. Because at that point, once they're committed, you also they're still recruiting them. The recruitment doesn't end at that moment. The recruitment ends when they sign that piece of paper. So once they're mentally committed, right, the coaches can keep selling, and then eventually they'll get to that 100%, but you can't expect them to be 100% before they say, I'm going to attend the University of Oklahoma.
And I will also add that the whole Arch deal is, I have to agree. I mean, his name, he is talented. He's got the build. I mean, he looks exactly like a Peyton Manning. I mean, he's 6'4" already, 215 pounds. I will say, Jackson Arnold last year compared to Arch's senior or his junior season, Jackson Arnold threw for 2,000 more yards. So Jackson Arnold's very capable. There's no doubt about that. I also think that if Sarkisian doesn't put together a good season with Ewers and the seat starts to get a little warm, like you said, Jose, this recruiting isn't over just because you make an initial commit. We've seen plenty of flips to Oklahoma, away from Oklahoma, a bunch of other schools committed for a while, and then you decommit. If the seat starts getting hot, Arch Manning knows that if he goes up to any other school, they're going to take him at no matter what time of the recruiting season. So if Sarkisian doesn't get 8, well, he's going to need like 10 wins probably this fall with Quinn Ewers and being in his second year. If they don't do that, they might pull the plug on Sarkisian. I'm not saying he's going to get fired, but it'll get awfully warm. And if you know that as Arch and you're like, gosh, if I commit and then I sign and then Sarkisian might only be there for one more year, maybe. And that might still be Quinn Ewers' year. And then by the time, if they do bad again, Sarkisian gets canned. I think Arch Manning and his family is smart enough to know that, man, I could go somewhere like a Kirby Smart or, Nick Saban or somewhere that's stable, because he's not going to come to Oklahoma. We've got our guy in Jackson Arnold, but I wouldn't be necessarily shocked to ever see Arch Manning not put on a Longhorn uniform. But if they have a great season, I see him signing all the way through. I just think that there is a chance that if they do struggle and the seat becomes warm for Sarkisian, he very well might leave and decommit. So that's just something to think about, because the turnover at that job has been pretty crazy over the last, I don't know, it's like every 2 to 3 years it seems like.
Yeah, so, if Sark doesn't get the job done this year, he just needs to be like securing a bowl berth by 70% through the season. If he does that, I think the Texas boosters are going to be fine, especially with the idea of Arch Manning still coming in 2023. But if he struggles like last year, that guy might get fired before the end of the season, because that's just, if you're a Texas booster, you're not going to pour in hundreds of thousands of dollars every year for that guy to pay. Student athletes aren't going to be worth a shit in college.
Yeah, especially with a quarterback in Quinn Ewers, who was the number 1 quarterback in his class, and then you've got Arch Manning as the number 1 quarterback. I don't know.
Do you guys think that even if they are horrible this season, if you are a booster, you're hesitant to push for his firing because if you do fire him, you might lose out on Arch Manning? I feel like he might be safe no matter what until Arch Manning at least gets on campus, because they know if they can Arch Manning, it's going to hurt that commitment.
Maybe, right? But if they're a booster and they have that kind of influence, maybe they would also start working on getting a coach that's on staff at the moment, and so hey, you're like the quarterback, or probably not the quarterback coach, because I'm sure Sark is the quarterback coach, but maybe the wide receivers coach or the O-line coach say, hey, man, like, your job is secure. You don't have to worry about it. We're just going to can the shit out of Sark because he sucks. We'll make sure that you stay on staff for the next guy, or maybe even you can be the next guy. But the caveat to that is you have to make sure Arch doesn't leave. Like he has to play for Texas at least 1 year. And I mean, the transfer portal is always that year now. So even if he does suit up for Texas 1 year and they suck, he could always just go to Alabama. I mean, I think Alabama, Nick Saban pretty much wanted to prove Jimbo Fisher he's still beneath. Jimbo's still beneath Nick, and he went after his quarterback. So now he kind of lost out on Arch Manning for that reason, in my opinion. But he can always go get him after 1 year at Texas.
Yeah, I mean, this might very well have bought Sarkisian some more time, another year or so. But at the end of the day, if you can't win and you start struggling again, you know, Arch is probably going to look at it and be like, gosh, am I going to go play for the coach like back-to-back years at 5 and 7 or whatever they were? I mean, I wouldn't want to, but I don't know. So enough talking about that. You know, overall, my takeaway is it makes the Red River more exciting, more things to follow. It's good. As much as we don't like Texas, it's good when Texas is good because it's always fun to compete against them. You know, when they're the best, you know, at their best and we're at our best, it's always really fun to play against them. And obviously beating them consistently is always a good time as well. But, you know, it's the talk of when OU and Texas are both good, it's good for the Big 12. Well, we're about to go to the SEC, so it doesn't really matter, but it's just more of the rivalry. It makes it a little more fun. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we kind of move off of this? Jose, do you have anything to add, or
I'm gonna go ahead and bow out here. I really just wanted to talk about this with you boys. It's the biggest news for college football, and it does kind of affect Oklahoma. But at the end of the day, we're fine. Let's just try to get these commitments starting to lock up here in the next month. I know that's something that we all expect, and we did get a couple, but we need more. So hopefully, Caden Green, if you're watching this, man, just go ahead and pull the trigger so we can all stop stressing about this, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's scheduled to commit, I think, July 8th. So we're only a few weeks away.
Like
so
all right, boys. Well, I'm going to go get some ice cold coconuts. I'll see you later.
Enjoy Hawaii, bud.
Sounds fun. Rough life.
Yep. See ya.
All right.
Man,
so
what a guy. Just imagine that. He's going to get some coconuts. It's 2:00. It's probably going to have some colons later. Oh, man.
Yeah, he was quite the guy to stop by and join and grace us with his presence, right? Maybe we'll get him on later this week or beginning of next week.
Special guest. Love it.
Yeah.
Good job. Good shit.
Yeah. All right. Back to just the dynamic duo. So a little more talk about kind of Texas, but really this impacts OU recruiting as well. With Arch Manning committed to Texas, there's going to be some recruitments that are going to be altered because of this commitment. And one that comes to mind is Michael Harrison Pilot. Michael Harrison Pilot, we've been talking about him. He's a 2023 4-star wide receiver, number 130 overall, number 9 guy in the class out of Temple, Texas. He's taken some visits to Oklahoma. It seemed to be trending in the right direction. He has since this past weekend took an official visit to Texas, and it just so happens right after that, Texas lands a commit of Arch Manning, of course. There's been some crystal balls entered in for Michael Harrison Pilot in favor of Texas. Just looking through his Twitter, I see him retweeting a Texas account. It seems as though this ship has sailed. It seems like Harrison Pilot and Manning are kind of tight, and they're kind of friends, and they want to play together. And it seemed like Harrison Pilot had a great visit with Texas. Do you have any thoughts? It seems like this ship has kind of sailed.
It sucks. I think it kind of piggybacks off what Hose just mentioned. Like we've got to start closing, because at one point in time you feel really, really high about Dylan Edwards, and then he goes and commits to Kansas State. You lose out on that one. At one point in time, we're feeling really, really good about Peyton Kirkland. I mean, there's still a chance there, but it's looking more and more like he's not going to be coming. There's a Tyler Turner. He comes down for his official visit at Champion Barbecue. things are looking good. We're feeling good. He goes, hits Oregon up. Boom. He's a duck. Yeah, it's been a rough, couple weeks, I guess, or a week or so. But, there are still plenty of commits coming to Oklahoma, but we just, again, like Jose said, we've got to start nailing them down. We've got to start getting commitments instead of just crystal balls or good feelings.
Yeah. And that's true. And, Dylan Edwards, I feel like it was one of those deals that he was wanting to drag out the recruitment, and Oklahoma wasn't going to do it after getting the commitment from Caleb Hicks. And, Dalen Smothers seems to be in a really good spot, depending on what this Florida State visit looks like this weekend. Tyler Turner, that one hurts, but, I think we're going to be able to put together, a couple good safeties in this class. And, someone that, while we thought Harrison Pilot was going to be a part of this class for OU, someone that we've talked about before, but I wasn't overly confident with, but it seems like that OU's really trending in the right spot for is Chikwueze Petaway, 5'11", 170 pounds, 4-star, number 47 overall, and number 8 wide receiver in the class out of Houston, Texas. He is electric. He is last year for his season, he had about 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. The season before, he had 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's 5'11", 5'10", 5'11", depending on where you look. He's fast, he's quick, and he is the frame that OU is looking for. Because if you think about all the wide receivers that they've picked up over the last year or so, Jaden Gibson's like 6'5". Hester, the transfer from Missouri, he's like 6'3". And then Anderson, Nick Anderson, he's 6'4". There's a lot of length that OU's added, and they need a little bit of the smaller, shiftier guys that are electric all over the field. And Petaway is this. And I would say Petaway is better than Harrison Pilot. And for a while, Petaway was trending away from Oklahoma. While so Harrison Pilot is now trending away, you've got Petaway coming in. I feel like it's an upgrade. What do you think?
No, I absolutely agree. I think if I could have one or the other, I'm definitely picking Chikwueze Petaway. There's a reason that he's a top 50 athlete in the country and a top 10 receiver in the country. You put his film on, it is dynamic. He's a guy that his team is getting him the ball in so many different ways. He can run every single route in the route tree. He can make those contested catches even for his 5'11" size. But, there are so many times where he gets a quick bubble screen or a quick 2-yard slant. He's making 10 people miss or juking them out of their shoes. And he's electric with the ball in his hand. He's very fast. He's got everything you're looking for in I imagine he'll play a slot receiver type position for Oklahoma. And he's perfect for it. He runs every route crisp, can run every single route. He plays bigger than that 5'11" frame, but if you have not seen his tape, put it on. It is dynamic. He's not only is he catching bubble screens and running all these routes, but he's returning kicks and returning punts, and he's playing a little bit of DB. His team wants him to have the ball in his hand, and there's a reason for it. Again, if you haven't seen his tape, just head over 24/7. It's pretty fun, and he's going to be a special player. Let's hope Oklahoma can lock that one up, because I think he's going to be a stud.
He's someone that I can see committing in the next month or so. And that's kind of a teaser to our Monday's show, where we're going to be talking about, the kickoff, the recruiting dead period of who could commit during this, 4-week window or so. And I think he falls into that category. And that's someone that we're going to be talking about, because we've already got, as you say, Keon Braun committed.
Braun
committed. And then you've got could potentially be Petaway. Cole Adams is still out there. Anthony Evans is out there. OU just got put in the top 5 for Anthony Brown, who's out of Ohio.
Anthony Brown.
OU is going to be great in the wide receiver room. I know a lot of people have been concerned about Cale Gundy and his recruiting right now. I wouldn't be stressed. I think OU is going to take between 3 or 4 wide receivers, and they're all going to be probably 4-star guys, solid guys. And we've already got a bunch of length on campus. And, Keon Brown, he's already 6'3" as well. So there's some more length being added. But then you add a Cole Adams, you add Chikwueze Petaway, some smaller guys, and also Anthony Brown is also, or Anthony Evans, is also on the smaller side. So both, they're going for the slot position and the need. We've got the length. We just need the speed and the smaller
that
size
receiver room. the receiver went from an area of concern literally about a month or two ago to now it's starting to fill up with just loads of talent. I think Kilgendy's working his ass off there. Getting some dudes. I think Keon Braun is a dog. Jaden Gibson's obviously a dog. Nick Anderson, and man, if we land Jaquazi Petaway, that'll be like a cherry on top.
I agree. I mean, Jaquazi Petaway would be the like the crown jewel of the wide receiver recruiting for OU this year. So we'll see. Granted, there's still a lot of twists and turns that could happen between now and National Signing Day, but OU seems to be in a really good spot for Petaway while they're trailing away on Harrison Pilot. So we'll move on to another topic on the offensive side as well. Peyton Kirkland, you kind of alluded to him a little bit earlier. Peyton Kirkland, we've talked about him at length here on this show, various episodes over the last month or so. He's a 2023 4-star, 6'6", 345-pound offensive tackle out of Orlando, Florida. This has really turned into kind of a 4-team race of Oklahoma, Michigan State, Miami, and Florida. For a long time, it was thought that it was going to be an OU Florida battle. This has since transitioned into more of an OU Michigan State battle. The reasoning being is he just took a visit to Michigan State and Miami this past week. Quite a few crystal balls just came in in favor of Michigan State. It's a lot of Michigan State insiders, and while he had a great visit, and Mel Tucker and his staff can recruit very well, and Kirkland is originally from the Chicago area and he has family in the Chicago area, so East Lansing, Michigan is not too far away for them. I will argue that while these crystal balls have come in and he's committing on July 23rd, which is exactly a month from right now when we're recording this, we've seen this song and dance before. It seems like he was coming off, an OU official visit, and it was great. And, OU is the leader and all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden, Florida's kind of back in it. And now he just got off his Michigan State official visit. He's really high on them, and he very well, and I'm sure he is. But what I'm getting at is some people have extreme post-visit highs, and they do interviews immediately after with local insiders or whoever about how great the visit was, and I'm sure it was great. But as time passes from that visit, I think they start evaluating it more analytically and more objectively. And I still think while he's not going to be taking any more visits, at least officially between now and his, his commitment, I think OU is still in this. I think it's OU Michigan State. While all these crystal balls have come in favor of Michigan State, I still think OU very well could end up with Peyton Kirkland. I know that they're still talking. I've read that they're still talking. I think at the end of the day, I think OU is right in it still, even coming off this visit. And I think you give it a couple more weeks, and I think OU's going to be neck and neck. What do you think?
I mean, I kind of just mentioned that I feel like we're losing out on him, so I don't want to backtrack too much. But that post-visit high really is a thing. It's like when you go to a nice restaurant and you have a really good meal, and you're like, man, that's the best meal I've ever had because it's so fresh, and so you just had it, and then a week passes or 2 week passes, and you're like, it's not my favorite restaurant. Again, that can happen. He can go on and 2 weeks can pass, the visit high wears off, and then he can start thinking again about realistically where am I best at, which coach is going to put me in the best position, which city did I have, whatever. There's 1,000 different things that factor into these decisions. So I do agree with you. I don't necessarily think Oklahoma's out. He can always come back in 2 weeks and reassess and realize that Oklahoma is the place. So yeah, I'm not saying that we're out of it by any means, but I don't feel as good as I once did, I guess.
Oh, I totally agree. I'm not going to say, and I sit here and say that I feel still really, really good. Obviously, after what he said in his visit, it must have went really well. But I do think that you give it some time, OU's going to be right there. And just because he makes a commitment on one day doesn't mean that Coach B and the staff are going to quit recruiting him. And, it's like the same thing that I said with Texas. If Michigan State starts to struggle and they're kind of rocky a little bit, now Mel Tucker's not going to get fired. He just got like what was 10 years, $95 million or something like that. He's a great coach. But if they do have a rocky season and OU does extremely well, it might start creeping into his mind. I'm not saying it would if he does end up committing to Michigan State, but that might play a role. So something to watch. We'll be keeping our eyes on his commitment, or his upcoming commitment over the next month, and hopefully OU can get back into a great spot for him. So we'll move on and to another guy. We've never talked about him, and I feel like this guy is now on our radar because of this visit that Peyton Kirkland took. OU on Wednesday offered a kid by the name of Heath Ozeta. I think that's how you say it, out of Washington, the Pacific Northwest. He's 6'6", 296 pounds. He is a 3-star, number 548 overall, and the number 46 offense tackle in the class. He has taken official visits to UCLA, Utah. He had one scheduled for Stanford this upcoming weekend. That has since been canceled. He also, I saw on social media that there's been a picture of him at this OU spring game in last year in 2021. I believe a family member has some sort of OU ties as far as, attended the school or something. So I think immediately OU has jumped way out in front. There are crystal balls that flooded in for him immediately upon this offer. I feel like while Heath has a lot of talent, I mean, he's already 6'6", 300 pounds. I do feel like he was an offer because of Peyton Kirkland not being so sure. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Heath could very well develop to be a, all pro, first team kind of guy. It's just, he's not quite as polished right now, but having that 6'6" frame, that's a pretty good deal. And I think just because he's a 3-star he shouldn't be looked down upon. Like some people will be upset, but stars don't always win you games and win you championships. What do you think?
Heath Ozeta is going to be making that short drive from the Washington State area down to Oklahoma. We've talked about that before. He's just a quick, easy drive away. But no, Heath Ozeta has, for a guy who's 6'6", almost 300 pounds, how athletic he is pretty scary, actually. You watch him, he finishes every single block. He gets to the second level. He's the first one to hit a linebacker. He's explosive for a dude as big as he is. Again, 6'6", almost 300 pounds, and he moves as if he's a tight end. He played a little bit of defensive line too, so that kind of speaks to his athletic ability, versatility. I agree with you on the star thing with him. I think we can overlook the stars because when you look at the potential that he has at that frame and the ability to move as well as he does, he could blossom into a pretty damn good college football player. Again, I mean, I feel really good about this one just with the way things have happened so quickly with him. Just offered canceling a Stanford visit. Things are trending the right way, and I think Heath Ozeta is going to be a pretty quality pickup and one Sooner fans are going to like for a while. I know it's not the flashy 4 or 5-star guy, but I think give him a chance and he'll be pretty darn good.
Yeah, and the haul in the offensive line room could very well be like Caden Green, Josh Bates, and then maybe Logan Howland, Caden Green, maybe Ozeta. I mean, that's 5 offensive linemen right there. That's a pretty solid haul. They've got great size, great ability. While they might not all be the highest rated, there's plenty of no stars, 3 stars that get drafted in the first round of the NFL. So just because you're not a hot shot coming out of high school doesn't mean you can't become a star in college. So we'll move on to the last topic. This has been kind of a wild recruitment. Derek Leblanc, he is, we've talked about him at length here. He's a 2023 4-star, number 76 overall, number 7 defensive lineman in the class, 6'4", 270 pounds, out of Kissimmee, Florida. He originally was slated to commit July 23rd, pushed it back to October. He just took another visit to Florida this past weekend. He made a tweet, commitment, or, social media hit my line for commitment. I was reading about, some Florida reporters. They're saying that he's pushing his commitment back up into July to commit potentially with a couple other people around the Florida area. I'm not feeling great about Derek LeBlanc, but I still am convinced that OU will get an official visit regardless if he commits or not to Florida. And if that is the case and OU can get that official visit in October or something, there's enough time for OU to flip him from Florida. But if he commits to Florida, like I've said, once you're committed, it's really hard to flip someone. They're committed for a reason. It is possible, but with him originally, canceling, pushing it back, now potentially pushing it forward, it's just not a great look for OU, in my opinion, as far as our chances go. What do you think?
I definitely agree. It's unfortunate the way that one's trending or looking right now. Derek LeBlanc's also, yeah, as you mentioned, he's been talked about on the show a bunch of times. Been to campus a bunch of times, but I mean, it feels like he's been to Florida in the double-digit number of times now, whether unofficially, officially, whatever it may be. He's been there so many times. Him pushing his recruitment forward again. Everything's screaming. Everything you read, everything from his own social media screams Florida right now. It's another one that, going back to what Jose said, we got to start closing some of these instead of just having good feelings or being in a good spot, because the longer these processes drag out, it feels like the worse things get for us for whatever reason, with or at least recently with some of these kids. So, it kind of is what it is. It looks like it's going to be Florida. So, it happens.
Hate being friend zone, right?
Friend zone so hard, man. It's tough.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just isn't a great look. And, if Peyton Kirkland and Derek LeBlanc commit to the, Florida and Michigan State, and then you lose out, like you say, on Tyler Turner, Dylan Edwards, I think was, agreed upon. Those are quite a few targets to be losing out on. But, OU's still in a good spot with a handful of other guys. I still think it's going to be a top 10 class.
Yeah, I mean, the sky is not falling or anything, but I mean, I do. Let's start to see something soon.
Yeah, and we will. I mean, we're going to be talking about on Monday. We've got a handful of commits we believe that are coming. We think over the next month or so should be really good for OU, in theory anyway. If it's not, that's when I might start to worry. If by August 1st and we don't have another commitment on deck or public, that's when I might start sounding the alarm of like, hold up, what is going on here? So, if it's any consolation, Alabama's like the number 30 something ranked recruiting class, and we're like number 30 something as well. So we're right there with Alabama. So, it is what it is. We're going to just close it out, close strong. So, do you have any final thoughts? If not, you can do the individual challenge for the people.
Yeah, obviously we were joined by our third member today, Jose. We'd love to have him on. He is touring Hawaii tomorrow. So I'm sure we've had some of our listeners have been to Hawaii, been to Maui, been to Kauai, whatever it might be. When I went to Boise, I had recommendations of where to go, and I actually went there. It was fantastic. Drop your Hawaii recommendations and see if Jose comes back and watches the rest of the video after he hops off or goes through the comments, and maybe he will go to some of the spots you guys recommend. All your Hawaii recommendations, put them in the comments.
Hawaii recommendations. I wish I could give a Hawaii recommendation. I've just never, I can't speak from experience.
I can't either, bud. One day.
Yeah, maybe one day. So maybe one day we'll all be doing a podcast from Hawaii. That would be the ideal scenario. So anyway, yeah, definitely. That is the dream. So anyway, you made it this far. You spent like nearly 40 minutes with us. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, you might as well. It's free. It helps us. Turn that notification bell, like the video, comment on the video, let Jose know any Hawaii recommendations and anything else that you heard during the video. Let us know what you think on Arch Manning as well. If you've never been to Hawaii, obviously Brandon and I haven't. Find us on our social medias. Everything's linked below: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, and Spotify. And if you are listening to us on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a review. Let us know what you think on there. It helps us spread the word on there as well. We will catch you guys on Monday for another video, and we'll be doing a prediction for the next month or so of commitments. We'll catch you guys next time.